You guys, listen to this. You hear the sound of the pajeon cooking? That's supposed to mimic the sound of raindrops, which is why you eat pajeon on a rainy day. I did not make that up, I swear to God. Like I heard it somewhere. I think my grandma might have told me that. So we're gonna be making one of my favorite things ever. It's kimchi jeon, also known as buchimge. There's so many different words for it. There's also like pajeon sometimes on the menu. Also, I recently learned that it's also called jijim. So there's so many words for this, but it's essentially just a pancake. And I think Koreans like to eat this like on a rainy day. Okay, so starting with the kimchi, obviously the kimchi needs to be really, really good for this. I always say that if a dish has kimchi in it, the kimchi needs to really stand out and be really good. So good quality kimchi. This recipe came from my grandma. She uses different ingredients, and I also like this because she doesn't use the pre-made batter. So the batter, there's something called buchimge mix, which is like the pancake mix, and you can buy that, but she just uses regular flour, cornstarch, and rice flour. So you can find that obviously anywhere. But starting with chives, I like using these Asian chives. They're like a little bit flatter and it's very garlicky. It's also known as garlic chives. But if you can't find this, you can use regular chives as well. So I'm just gonna cut this into like 2-inch pieces. Next, I have a shallot. We have our carrot. Zucchini is next. A red chili. And then I have some dried shiitake mushrooms, which I rehydrated. Go. All right, so the batter. I'm using flour, rice flour, and cornstarch because I like making my own mix, but there's also a pre-made batter called pancake batter that you could just buy. And it makes it easier because you don't have to buy all the different flours, but also with this, you don't have to go to an Asian grocery store for. My ratio for this, I would say, is 2 parts all-purpose flour to 1 part rice flour to half a part cornstarch. And the cornstarch will help it be nice and crispy. Just gonna add salt, and then we'll use some water. Make sure you whisk it really well to get out all the lumps. And remember, there's water in the vegetables too. So you don't want to make this too loose, because what will happen is the salt that I added will draw out some of the moisture from the vegetables. So that looks pretty good. You know, it's semi-thick, but still loose enough where it runs, right? See that? So this is what my grandma used to do. This is her secret. She likes adding ground pork to the batter. And it just gets it super crispy. Also, the flavor is really nice. But obviously, if you're a vegetarian or don't eat pork, you don't have to add it. You can also add ground beef or whatever type of ground meat you want. But it really, I love this. And this is not traditional. I think this is like her way of doing it. But I love the flavor that the ground pork adds. Also, I've done it with ground chicken or ground beef, which which works really well, but honestly, you don't have to add it if you don't want to either. But this, if you mix this in, it'll melt right into the batter. See, it becomes kind of like just becomes a part of the batter. You see that? Okay, so at this point, it's like nice and thick, right? At this point, I think we can add our vegetables. Now it looks thick, but I'm telling you, the vegetables will draw out some of its moisture, because we're gonna let this sit for a few minutes before we start forming our pancake. Tiniest bit of sesame oil for that flavor. So I love sesame oil. Okay, let's let this sit for like 5 minutes before we form our pancakes. Okay, so let's make a quick dipping sauce. I feel like sauce is really important. I love adding fresh scallions, which we're just gonna give a quick chop. One clove of garlic, soy sauce, some rice vinegar, bit of sesame oil, Korean red chili flakes, and then, of course, sesame seeds. Okay. That's it, that's your dipping sauce. Okay, so let's do this. So essentially you're pan frying this. And I like using a measuring cup to pour in my batter just so that we have consistency on size. Just pour it in. And then kind of spread it to create a circle. I'm gonna give it at least 4 to 5 minutes before it flips. All right, just be careful of the oil. There we go. Beautiful. Perfect. You guys, listen to this. You hear the sound of the pajeon cooking? That's supposed to mimic the sound of raindrops, which is why you eat pajeon on a rainy day. I did not make that up, I swear to God. Like, I heard it somewhere. I think my grandma might have told me that. Plate it. Hear that? That's when you know you have good pajeon. Oh. Dip it in the sauce. Mmm. 완전 최고야. The pork, it's so subtle. It's not like you get like chunks of pork. It's just a mild flavor that it brings to the batter. It's seriously perfect. You have to try my recipe.